Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel from TechStrong. We're here today at the beautiful Conrad Resort in Orlando, Florida, for the Automation Anywhere Imagine conference. It's been an amazing 2 days. You know, there's so much going on in this area. You may or may not know Automation Anywhere. They've been a leader in BPA, RPA for years and years and years. But the world's changing, and so is Automation Anywhere. And we're going to talk about that. I'd like to introduce you to Audi Kuruganti, right? Chief Product Officer, CPO at Automation Anywhere. Audi, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
So I mentioned you're Chief Product Officer, but I always like to give the audience a sense of your journey,
Yes.
right? How did you come to be the Chief Product Officer here?
So, Alan, I joined Automation Anywhere about a little under 4 years ago, and I joined as Chief Product Officer. So as part of that, product, technology, community, those are my areas of responsibility beyond everything else that goes in a startup, in a company our size that's growing so fast. So I've been here about 3.5 odd years. Before that, I was at Salesforce for 15 years. Joined back when it was one big cloud and one product line, SFA. I've seen it through this various growth transitions and spikes and kind of the major growth areas. So joined when it was sub 500 million, left in 2021 when it was around 27, 28 billion. So saw that growth curve. Always in products, was in different product lines, really at the core. I love building, launching, growing product lines. That's my DNA. And then was, ran a $1.5 billion business at the end of my tenure at Salesforce. And decided I want to be in the automation market. That's why I joined the leader, which is where I am.
Automation Anywhere. So Audi, to me, that's a really interesting history coming from Salesforce to Automation Anywhere, because these are two companies that are kind of leading the path forward in terms of agentic AI and using agents. Salesforce has, of course, made a huge pivot.
That's right.
To this agent-based thing. I have to ask you, 4 years ago, you're looking at coming to Automation Anywhere for automation, and of course, automation is, in the tech world, is always considered a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any inkling at that point that the agentic piece of this would be such a watershed event?
No, to be very...
Indeed, right.
4 years ago, no. But I always knew the automation market was really ripe for disruption. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're a market maker for RPA, robotic process automation, and there are other sub-markets out there. But there's no, the technology had evolved, but with AI and the broader market moves that's happening across various sections, I did feel that automation, that's one of the reasons I joined Automation Anywhere, was a market was going to explode. And this was something that was clear to me even in 2021 when I was, looking and spoke to Mihir and team about joining Automation Anywhere. Because every business needs automation.
Absolutely.
As much as you might say that, operational efficiency is, especially now, actually, operational efficiency is even more important, but even more so growth. How do you drive growth by investing in the business? And that's where automation comes in. We've always been in AI. Frankly, even RPA and kind of BPA, there's always been a lot of AI, more AI ML. But definitely this entire market of agents and Gen AI before that is completely disrupted.
Absolutely. To me, I think of it as, they were selling automobiles before Henry Ford. Mm-hmm. But the whole concept of the assembly line and the little automation and so what, it made a very different, for a very different car market, automobile market. Now, we've talked around the edges about Automation Anywhere and their history. They were a leader in RPA. They've been a leader in RPA.
Still a leader.
And still a leader in RPA, exactly.
Yeah.
But when as you as chief product officer, when did you, go to your peers at the exec team and say, well, have you gone to your peers, I guess is a better question, and say, hey, we have got to go all in on agentic, or maybe not go all in on agentic?
Yeah. So there's a timeline to this.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first into Gen AI. In fact, we started working with OpenAI and some other companies before ChatGPT, and it's primarily to drive more automation use cases specifically around document processing.
Mm-hmm.
And because we found a way where we could, for example, process unstructured documents. So this was like back in 2022, before all the craze of ChatGPT and the explosion. And for the next 6 to 8 months, and this is post ChatGPT, we started investing more and more in that area because we saw amazing results. And now one of our fastest growing products is document automation. 3x growth, 65% of our documents are processed using generative AI.
Wow.
And we're talking about single digits last year and now 65%. So it's just crazy kind of growth there. But really last 18 months, so we were first on Gen AI. Then we started thinking about, okay, how do we tune this or focus this on automation outcomes? Because most of the Gen AI you see out there are general purpose. Summarize an email or, do something else.
Write a blog article.
Write a blog article. For us, our customers were asking, well, how does this apply to me in my automation use cases, whether it is accounts payable or whatever it might be. So our focus is, okay, what are the investments we should be making to use Gen AI and then AI agents, but tune it and focus it on process automation. And so that was kind of something we went all in, I'd say about 18 months ago. We, as a product and technology team, we've been working really closely with not only the hyperscalers, the AWS, Microsoft, GCPs of the world, but also startups who have been coming up and coming, like AI native companies. So we've been kind of ahead of the market in that sense and getting access to early technology even before it's available in the market. So long story short, I would say is we kind of very much all into what we call agentic process automation, which is kind of our version of agentic AI. And Mihir and the broader exec team, and frankly, the company is all into. It wasn't overnight, but I think the last 18 months we've shown we are first to market with APA, first to market with agents. We launched it nearly a year ago before agents were cool. Now it's obviously everybody's talking about it. And obviously we'll talk more about some of the new announcements, but I think the first mover advantage has really helped us.
Absolutely. Well, you were starting from a position of strength.
Yes.
Right. I just want to make clear, APA is agentic process automation, right. And that's kind of the new term here that we're using for this. I will tell you, I'm not as an expert on automation, obviously, as you are, but I've always looked, especially at RPA, and said, it's great, but I always felt there was another shoe to drop. You know what I mean? That something like an AI agent would really just ignite this. I remember my first kind of exposure to RPA. I met someone in a startup group. I think I was a judge at a pitch event or something.
Okay.
And they had an RPA document, basically system that was really cool, but I just felt it needed the agent to really make it more independent, more
expansive.
Yeah. And now when you look at this, certainly it's just, as you said, when you go from single digits to 65% in 1 year.
That's right. With the top line growing at 3x. So everything is growing. It's not
3x. And you don't see that, right? This is like when cloud came out, we didn't see this kind of growth. This is the kind of growth we saw when maybe the internet first went commercial, right?
Yeah, we truly believe the phase we're in, and I think this is not only in automation, but broadly in the market, this entire agentic Gen AI push is like cloud, or even probably like the internet.
I think it's bigger than cloud. It's more like
bigger
the
than
internet.
Cloud, yes. And so it's going to come complete, not only disrupt markets, but you're going to have the next Googles and Facebooks and
Absolutely.
AWS is the world from this coming out 10 years from now. And so we want to be very focused on this.
I agree with you. I try to tell people that I've been in technology for 35 years, a long time. And I've seen a lot of stuff come and go and come again. There are some things that, as a technology person, get me excited. The cloud, right? But explaining to my mother-in-law what the cloud is, all she knows is her pictures were stored up there, right? Then there are some things that just change civilization. The internet, the cell phone, right? These things, it's not just my geeky friends, right? It's and that's to me what we're dealing with here with something like APA and agents. So Hadi, if you don't mind, I'd like to maybe pivot a little bit now and talk about the Imagine conference here. It's been 2 days chock full of product announcements, partner success stories, customer success stories, learning. I think people are still wrapping their hands or their arms around agentic process automation. It's more than just a name change, right? What really does it entail? If you wouldn't mind, for all of our audience out here who weren't able to come, weren't here, tell us what we missed. Give them a recap. Make sure we let them know what happened here.
Yeah, so it's been an amazing 2.5 days. We still got the rest of today. I'll kind of break it out three main things. First, we talked about the amazing momentum we're seeing with agentic process automation. This is something we launched last year as a category. It's really a new category, an expansive category. And we had R.R. Donnelley, we had KPMG, we had Washington Post, some major customers talking about how they're using agentic process automation and really driving incredible operational efficiency, but organizational change and business change within their large enterprises, and across manufacturing, and you're talking about different industries essentially. So that's one big thing, and across even the sessions, we had a lot of customers talking about the business benefits and the gains they're seeing with agentic process automation. The second big announcement was a set of new innovations, and that, as a chief product officer, I'm really excited about. First was around the process reasoning engine. And essentially the way to think about the process reasoning engine, it's kind of our secret sauce. It's our unique IP that helps us drive differentiated process automation outcomes in the world of agents. Because you have general purpose agents, our focus is on driving process automation outcomes. And the way we do that is, we have our own unique models tuned on, hundreds of millions of automation runs on our platform. We have customer specific context, which enables personalization for specific customers, because, customer manufacturing is going to be very different from a customer financial services. So it needs to be tuned towards them. And then these more goal-oriented, self-reflective agents, kind of cognitive AI agents that can, for example, look at unstructured content like a product catalog and make decisions on what's the right product replacement for a specific customer contract. So there are different use cases, obviously. And so that entire process reasoning engine ability to then access in a very expansive enterprise tool set. So we're an automation company. Customers use us to build RPA bots, APIs, process documents, build AI agents, bunch of different things. We also announced, so the Pre was a big part of it, and underlying Pre is also having an open ecosystem, open platforms. We announced partnerships with AWS. They were on stage, as was Google Cloud, where we're partnering with Google Cloud, for example, on the A2A protocol. We've been partnering with Anthropic on the model context protocol. So really focusing as an automation vendor on an open platform and open ecosystem, that's critical. So that's all part of the process reasoning engine. We're the first and the only automation vendor to have that. And we believe that's critical for any company to drive differentiated process automation outcomes. The second big announcement was general availability of our agentic orchestration engine. So we truly believe one of the core beliefs around APA is it's a combination of deterministic and cognitive. If cognitive is driven by the process reasoning engine, agentic orchestration engine is a major investment in our deterministic processes. The ability to basically run long-running mission-critical processes with the right governance and operational visibility. So that's gone GA with this summer. And the third big announcement we made is, again, in partnership with AWS around human-agent collaboration. So one of the things that in this world of agents, what's completely changing is how you and I engage with agents. It's not going to be the same forms and traditional user interfaces. It's not going to be those apps, where, like frankly, a Salesforce or a ServiceNow, any of those. It's going to be these more collaboration experiences, conversational experiences, but where you get work done. It's not a chit-chatting experience, right? And so how do you translate user intent into process action, but again, personalized to that user, personalized to the employee, and personalized to the customer? And that's what we announced with our partnership with Amazon Q, which is kind of under the umbrella of human agent.
Yeah, no, it's something we've covered a lot.
That's right.
It's funny you mentioned Salesforce and ServiceNow. One of the things we've seen is both of those companies, they don't want to just give you their agents. They want to be their agent orchestrator.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard someone refer to it as an agent orchestration system. But in my mind, that's always what was needed. Sort of the Kubernetes is to containers. You need an orchestrator for your agents. But they may not call it that, but that's really where the race is, right? Everybody wants to, because we're going to have a multitude of agents. We'll have an agent that interacts between you and I, between a process and I, we're all going to have a fleet of agents, whether they're ephemeral agents that are kind of single use and disappear and I spin another one up next time, or persistent agent, or however terminology you want to use. These agents are going to need to be managed.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a key part of the Automation Anywhere value?
Yes.
Is managing this agent army, if you will.
Yeah, the short answer is a definite yes. That's along with the process reasoning engine, which is kind of the secret sauce for all agentic behavior. The orchestration of these agents is critical. And we expect customers to build agents on our platform, on AWS, on GCP, on Microsoft Azure, on Salesforce, on ServiceNow, on open source platforms, on anything. Because frankly, you're going to build agents for different purposes on different platforms. And that's good. That's great. But how do you orchestrate those agents? And how do you also orchestrate both agents and deterministic workflows? Because when you're extracting a document, you don't necessarily need an agent, or you're calling SAP, you don't need an agent for that. You can just use an API.
It's really, well, there's no man's, that's a funny word to use for it, no man's land. But there's this gray area, let's say better, between what's an API call and what's an agentic.
And you'll find a lot of, a little bit confusion in the market where everything is being called an agent. The way I see it is a cognitive task is an agent. And an agent can call a set of tools, like an API, an RPA bot, and other things to do its work. But that's ultimate goal is you want to do something which is probabilistic. There are many things that you don't need a probabilistic. It's just, you want to call a Salesforce API, an SAP API, or a legacy system. You need to, use RPA bot to access it. You don't need an agent for that. So, but what we are focusing on, how do you orchestrate a process? And a process is going to have deterministic steps. It's going to have cognitive steps. And that's great. And you're going to have some of those cognitive steps, like agents built on our platform, some built on other platforms. And we want to own that orchestration layer. And like you said, the management layer. So how do you drive real-time observability on how your agents are operating? Are they actually responding as you expect them to respond? Because again, they're probabilistic. So even 95% success rate may not be good enough. It has to be 99 and more for certain mission critical processes. So having the orchestration layer and the observability layer is all part of our agentic orchestration system.
I love it. And you're 100% right. Make no mistake. The company that was orchestrating and managing these agents is in the catbird seat, right? In the power seat as this whole thing starts to unfold. We kind of stopped though, but let's go back to Imagine. So that was two big
So
announcements.
those are the two big announcements. And the third I would say is some major announcements with AWS. I already talked about some of the product announcements.
Yes, with Q.
With Q, also with Bedrock and some of the other investments there, but also with Google Cloud around partnerships on various products, but also on the agent-to-agent protocol. I won't say it much, but in Google's I/O event, they're going to announce some joint investments actually happening next week. So
Excellent.
there will be announcements there. So it's customer, innovation, and some key strategic partnerships.
I love it. And it's interesting. You've got Google, Microsoft, and AWS integrations here, as one should if you want to play in that cloud space, right? Adi, let me ask you to look in your crystal ball now. So this has turned the RPA industry on its head. 2 years from now. 2 years, 12 months to 24 months. How does this manifest itself?
So the one caveat I would put in is this entire agentic AI market is moving so fast. I mean, 2 years ago, there was no concept of agents.
No.
Now we're only talking about agents. So I would put that caveat with this market every 3 to 4 months, it's just turning on its head, right? And I'm going to put a crystal ball, like I can't kind of guarantee that crystal ball. But what I will say is I do expect, we've talked about some of the key elements here, right? Agentic orchestration, agents being, the probabilistic agents being, you can orchestrate but also control, plethora of agents across different platforms. I do see there's going to be a big focus on how do you stitch together these various agents for specific solutions? How do you deliver value to the customer? Because right now, it's still very much a technology talk versus, okay, what are the at-scale deployments that can be out there? We've already had some customers at the RRDs of the world talk about how they're deploying it at scale. I think we need to go, today we have about 1,500 live deployments. I expect that to go into the many, many thousands, if not 10,000s. And that's what I think the next 2 years, the maturity curve is going to be important, because ultimately, at least what we are in is how do we use agents for mission critical operations? And for agents to be used in mission critical operations, it needs to mature.
It has to be mission critical.
Yes. It has to, they can't be high error rates, and there needs to be the right observability and other pieces. So our focus, and I think where the market is also going to focus on across like our partners, the AWS's, GCPs of the world, is how do we together partner to ensure our all our customers can roll out and kind of scale out these agentic solutions and workflows at scale across all their business operations and see the impact on revenue, on operational efficiency, as well as on lower risk, because those are the three pieces, right? Revenue, cost, risk. On those three elements, we got to see the impact of agents. And that's where I think the maturity curve is going to happen for the next 2 years. But while that happens, I think there's going to be a lot of innovation going on in the market. We're just getting started on things like model context protocol and agent-to-agent kind of protocols, like how do different agents interact with each other? Because we all talked about how different vendors are going to have different agents. So how do they talk to each other? That technology, we're just getting started. So I think there's going to be a huge surge on innovation and continued surge on innovation. But I think what the market will demand is, well, how do I scale this out within my company and actually show business benefit? And that's going to be our focus.
Excellent. Adi, we're about out of time. I wish we could talk more, but we will, because look, my feeling is we're at the beginning of this story, not even the end of the beginning. So I look forward to continuing this conversation in the weeks and months ahead. But congratulations on a fantastic Imagine event here. Thanks for coming on TechStrong. and TechStrong TV, and continued success.
Alan, thanks for having me.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure. All right. We will have more Imagine coverage here from the Automation Anywhere conference in Orlando. Stay tuned.